On this episode of Property Journal, I'm talking to Jamie Scott, a writer and a producer who's sold over 100 million albums and 50 million singles. He's worked with and collaborated with Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, One Direction, Rag and Bone Man, to name just a few. He's going to be totally open about his approach to mental health, to business, what he's done and what he's doing next. I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Jamie, thanks for joining me.
No worries, thanks for having me.
I'd love to find out who's Jamie Scott.
I am a musician, songwriter, producer, publisher. I predominantly have had my career in the music industry. In recent times, I've branched into the sports world, working with Silverstone and British F1. I was in the right time, right place earlier in my career, and have been rather successful in the music industry. So now I've branched out into different investments, entrepreneurial things, and just trying to find my way in that world.
Yeah. Going right back to your younger years, did you always want to be involved in music and involved in songwriting?
There was never a point where I just, that had to be it.
Sure.
I think what happened was I was actually heavily involved in sport when I was younger. I played a ton of sport. It's probably where it's gone 360 in full circle now. I'll come back to it.
Which sports were you good at?
I played a lot of tennis.
Yeah.
I was also a tennis coach when I left school. I left school early because I realised that I wanted to do something that wasn't classroom led. I spent the summer in between lower sixth and upper sixth, so between taking the A levels basically. I'd spent the summer hanging around some musicians, and I just went back for the first week of my last year at school, and I was just like, that's just I can't do it. You know, when you're just so convinced that this is just not what you want to be doing. So I just walked out actually. Just walked out of school one day, but
so you didn't finish your A levels?
I've got no A levels, no.
Interesting. Didn't hold you back?
No, well, I guess I realised that I love music so much, and I wanted to. And as I say, I'd spent this whole summer between, it was a long time, 6-7 weeks, hanging around with different musicians back home, and just realising that's what I wanted to do. And then I realised, well, look, I definitely don't need a degree on A levels to do that. And so, it's a risk. I mean, I left school without qualifications, but you
followed your passion.
Yeah
I've
always done that.
And from a songwriting point of view, I guess initially that was for your own songs, for you as the
do you know what, God, it was a long time ago, but I was in and out of bands. I met a guy that was the son of one of my mum's friends. We started a band. My brother was in it as well. So we were writing songs for us. I think I then started writing songs for other people with the idea of, I didn't think they would hear them, but it was like, if I was to write a song for this person. And actually it was those songs that first got heard by publishers. And I then started performing them, because part of the deal that I signed was we'll sign your publishing, but we want you to perform these kind of songs. And actually it made me feel a bit awkward at the time, because I wrote quite a lot of, I don't know, music that was quite soulful, and music that I didn't necessarily want to be singing myself. I think I should be singing myself. So I kind of had a bit of coaxing into it, but ended up signing with Sony Music when I was like 21, after I signed my publishing deal before that. And rest was history. I kind of spent a good 10 years as a signed artist, between different labels, doing lots of different kind of music, and a lot of the time banging my head against a brick wall, but also enjoying traveling the world and just seeing crazy things and going through the emotional roller coaster that artists go through, which has given me such a great ability to know how to work with new artists as a songwriter, because you've been through it and you can, completely understand where everyone's coming from, and actually also how artists want to be talked to, work with. It's just the most important thing above anything in songwriting is how to work with artists and how to treat our artists and how to converse with an artist and everything, you know, I think you have to take it as an absolute given that the song has to be really good. I mean, if it's not, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. So above that, the ability to have the relationship with the artist and know how to work with someone, how to talk to someone, know when they're not in a good place and to leave it, and all those kind of things.
Empathy.
Yeah,
you've obviously got amazing empathy.
Empathy is very important. Yeah.
Did that come naturally to you? Because that's a skill.
I think you learn it. I think you learn. I don't want to say I learned to have empathy. That makes me sound like someone that you know was pretty rigid from the start. But no, I learned how to. I learned how to use the music industry in a way that, as long as I'm doing a really good job at what I do, songwriting and producing, I learned how to work with artists and get really good results, maybe better than a lot of other songwriters, because I worked out that I had to imagine that was me on that chair, and if I was talked to in a certain way, when I'm working with an artist, if I was working with a producer or another songwriter when I was an artist, things that I wouldn't have liked, and so you kind of then build that all in to a way that you then present yourself and you work with artists, and it's a really important thing. It's actually a thing that in music industry doesn't get talked about that much.
You've worked with so many different people, but would you, in how you go about writing a song, do you find that you're writing a song and then you actually start imagining the person that should be for, or is it more that the artist is coming to you in your professional capacity?
So what's funny is that I started my career by writing. There's lots of different kinds of songwriters. You've got songwriters that you know, play instruments. You've got songwriters, top line writers, lyricists that some play, some don't, some come up with melodies. You've got all sorts of songwriters. Yeah. I'm the kind of songwriter that I like working with an artist, sometimes one-on-one, maybe 2 or 3 of us in the studio, around a piano, around a guitar, and I write from that, you know, rawness, because that's how I worked. That's how I wrote for myself when I was an artist. Sure. And when you are that kind of songwriter, actually, the minute you start having success, the natural thing to do is to then go and work with the artist, because you get that kind of, you know, you get that, the bond, and, you know, hopefully the authenticity that comes with, you know, being there with someone. You know, ironically, I've really missed having time that's just me writing songs by myself, because the more success you have, the less you get to do that. So from my point of view, and in my experience, I've never had to really worry about trying to imagine writing a song for someone, because they're normally in the room with me, and you know, we do it that.
See, it's a proper collaboration.
Yeah. No matter how the person you're working with, how much they're writing, it could be that, as an artist, knowing what you want to say, knowing who you are, is as valuable in the writing process as coming up with the lyric, because that's what you need from an artist to know who they are, what they stand for, what they do want to say, what they don't want to say. And that right there is the authenticity of an artist, you know. So that's such an important thing to get from
massively
from someone.
What would you say is your biggest career success in terms of the #1 song? You have to just choose one song that you've collaborated and written. What would it be?
One song always stands out. One song to me was "Story of My Life" for One Direction, because they had a really successful first album that I was part of. I wrote a couple of tracks on. Funny enough, one was completely by myself, and it was one of the first ever songs I've written. And then since that success of that record was when I started having less and less time to write by myself.
You created your own.
Yeah, exactly. And on the second record, I worked with them again. I wrote a few songs on it. And then on the third record, the guys that had done predominantly a lot of the music on those first 2 records didn't work on the third record. So the guys that I did a few of the songs on the first and second records, we got brought in as the main collaborators from that third record. And I think the reason "The Story of My Life" is such an important song is because it's I think within the One Direction family of business, you know, management, label, the band, I think it was seen as the song that gave them the longevity maybe of having another 3 or 4 albums, because they were at a point where they needed to do something a bit different. And we definitely took a bit of a risk with Storm of Life because it was more folk led, it was an adult contemporary, but it really did wonders for them because it gave them you know, and actually a whole new audience. So I think in terms of what that did for my career, where I was at in my life, and what it did for them, that's a special one.
Yeah. And again, similar sort of question in terms of all the different artists and people you've worked with. Who have you enjoyed working with the most? Is there someone that just puts a big smile on your face, or did memories, even to the point where you've done touring, they must have been so exciting?
God, you know what?
Mega
It's a really tough question, because I've been lucky enough when I work with someone that if I don't enjoy it, I don't do it again.
Yeah.
Which is a privileged place to be in.
Yeah.
But for that reason, I would say that I've absolutely loved just all of the music that I've ended up being involved in. I don't think one artist has.
No.
Honestly, I don't think one artist has stood out as being.
They must all vary from being really professional to probably having a giggle.
There's just different things.
I get that.
You know, there's definitely songwriters that have become really close friends of mine that I love working with. I know when I've got that rapport with someone.
Sure.
As an artist, I don't think there's just like one artist that stood out. You know, I've got different things personally from working with artists in terms of when we got involved in Rag and Bone Man and seeing that be such a big success and being so involved in the whole making of the record. And
that was the album Human.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant album.
Yeah, and so there's things and again, being so involved in One Direction and them doing what they did. So you get different things from yeah, I mean, I wrote Cold Water with Benny Blanco and Ed Sheeran, you know, in a random apartment block in New York, and that was again just a very different experience. So I don't think there's any one artist that I would say, God, that just stood out as being the best day of my life. I think you get different things from. Yeah. And I think I'm lucky enough to hopefully not do any days that I don't enjoy anymore. So maybe I'm just lucky I haven't got an answer to that. Correct.
No, I think my question was more loaded on probably the entertaining side of things, which is not quite what, you know, I asked. Putting a smile on your face, someone that just lights up the room, makes you kind of like, can't wait for this. And the energy, because I imagine they've all got their own energy and they're all talented and so on. Is there someone just right now, if you were imagining doing something with it and it was just going to be fun and entertaining, you know, who might that be?
Maybe I'm starting to think I need to hang out with a few more artists that.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, what you're doing is serious, right? So maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I guess from the outside, you're looking in some of these artists, they're real characters. And
oh my God!
You know, they've got a huge amount of energy, and I can imagine being in that creative environment with them.
Do you know what? I have done quite a lot of stuff with. I do remember when I was working with Ellie Goulding and a friend of mine, Johnny Coffer, who's an amazing producer. We did have 2 or 3 weeks of just absolute. I mean, I don't think we did any work, which is probably why I don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
Probably thought to herself, you know, 3 weeks and they don't get one song back. It's just not. It's not good business.
You had an absolute.
It's not a good ratio. No, she's a good friend of mine. So, no. But we had an incredibly fun 3 or 4 weeks a few years back, and that does stand out as a time that I remember just laughing for. Yeah. But no, I mean, I think we have a really good time. Yeah. Most of the time, what we're doing. If you're not writing good music for a start. I have a publishing company called Catherine Songs, and we have very much a kind of mentality of signing up and coming writers and them learning off things that I've done, and it's like very much a family you know, a feel. And you know, that's one of the first things I say is like, look, whatever you do, you just have to enjoy it. I mean, because if you're doing something like music, which is a passion for most people anyway,
sure,
and then you start not enjoying it. Not only is you're taking away that side, a huge side of your life that is supposed to give you all of these amazing feelings, you're then also not going to write good music, which is then going to be a really bad.
Yeah, it's going to turn off the creativity side of things. And
exactly. So that really is my mantra in terms of music. It's just, you know, and it's taken me a while to get my life in a place where I know that every day I wake up, I know that within this year, that's going to be something I really enjoy. You know?
Yeah, I imagine there's an intensity that comes with putting together an album, putting together, you know, working with an artist to create the music. You've got 3 kids and you're married. How do you juggle the family, business, life, and time for yourself as well? Have you always managed to get that right?
I don't have any time for myself, but my family time is my time for myself. I guess I think that I made a really very quick decision when we had our first kid, not to stop touring and really stop being an artist. I think that was the difference. I was pretty much an artist in my 20s. When I hit 30, I had a first kid, and I realized actually, not only as a business decision, it's probably better if I stay at home and write for other people than carry on being an artist, because I was selling a lot more records as a writer. Then you have a child and you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to be away from home all the time. As an artist, you have to be, as part of your job, you know? Yeah. So I just had this very quick, and then I got married and I was like, wait, so my life just changed really quickly. And actually the last time I ever toured, I supported the One Direction guys on their stadium tour. Cool. And I remember thinking I can only do this if I bring my wife and my kids. So I did this crazy tour as an artist, you know, and as a songwriter, I sold lots of records, but as an artist, I hadn't. And suddenly my tour bill was probably one that probably got me dropped, because they were like, this guy's traveling around with like a star bus but I couldn't think of a way of doing this tour for 2 or 3 months.
How old were the kids at that time?
He was 6 months.
Oh, I see. Proper
7 months. So I was going to miss all that, and I was like, so, and it like my artist career had almost become vanity, because I was like, I know. You know, I don't feel like I have a need for it anymore. Like I just want to be at home, and I want to write music for other people, and I want to, you know, so. That's
nice though, because actually that phased into what, and I'm a dad of 2 daughters, and I changed a massive amount of the structure of how I was working when they were at a certain age, where I just wanted to be around. And I don't miss the previous, and so you don't miss the touring, you don't miss that.
I don't miss the touring. Do you know what started happening recently that's really got to me a little bit? Not in a really bad way, and not that something that would change and they do, but my daughter, so my kids are now getting to the age, they're like 5, 7 and 9, they're getting to the age where they're really discovering music on their own back, but they're discovering music that, you know, they log into like the family, Apple thing and whatever, and a lot of my music comes up, because I've obviously got my music stored on the thing, and so they're now obsessed with my earlier music that I don't listen to anymore. And in one way it's an amazing thing, and then my daughter constantly says to me, "Why don't you just go back on stage? I really want to see you back on stage." And I was trying to explain to her, without taking away the naivety she has for the world, and I was trying to explain to her that, you know, to be an artist and be on stage, you have to put work into it, and you've got to be away, and you don't just turn up on stage and people turn up and watch you. And that's made me a little bit sad, because I kind of guessed this should have been an amazing age for them to see me on stage. Actually, my youngest, because he was on the tour, somebody playing from like 60,000 people at the Rose Bowl, and when I talked to him about it, he obviously he has no recollection. But apart from that, no, absolutely don't miss. I miss the feeling a bit of being up on stage and the adoration of, you know, 500,000, 60,000. It's an amazing feeling. But for what I gained from not doing that, I don't miss a thing. You know.
So you can get that feeling from writing and collaborating with an artist now, and get that same sort of satisfaction, and ultimately it's paying the bills and so on, as you did from getting that adulation and touring in your younger years.
You get other stuff, and it replaces it.
And there's still time. You're what, 39 now?
41.
Oh, you're 41. My bad. But I mean, you know, there's still time for you to revisit the whole thing, and the kids can be there cheering.
Yeah, if my daughter's got, I think at some point I'm just going to have to set up like a a stage in the in the house somewhere and just do a gig for them, be like, there it is. Yeah.
So juggling, the question, I mean, you made a conscious decision, but just in terms of right now juggling, you see, you've got a nice balance of.
I don't get. I guess you know, I have this conversation a lot with my brother-in-law, who I guess we're quite different. I think I run a little bit on stress. I think I need it. I think I need a goal.
Discipline? It's almost like in your...
I just need stuff going on. I need problems to fix, or I don't know. You know, I just need. I'm not very good without something that I'm trying to achieve, or not actually. That's not wrong. I'm not suggesting that people that aren't trying to achieve something, but I need something that's creating a little bit of stress in my life. I think so I think I actually need that a little bit.
Yeah. And
I guess with that I'm foregoing time for myself, because my day starts at about 6 o'clock and ends at about 10 in the evening, to try and get everything in, you know, family, music industry. I very recently started working with Silverstone, which is I basically have been brought into Silverstone to run a music division, music and the arts division of Silverstone, with a clear view of upping the musical and the arts offerings for the events at Silverstone. So
this is the Grand Prix Formula 1.
For the Formula 1, MotoGP, they have an amazing festival at the end of the year with classic cars and amazing. So is
that in September? Silverstone Classic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Did they approach you? Did you approach them?
So again, it's you know, very naturally. I'm a huge, I'm a big West Ham fan, and I went to watch a West Ham game and met a chap that then knew someone that was the commercial director of Silverstone, and we then got to talk. He knew what I did, and we were talking about the artists playing Formula 1 and all these kind of events there. And I just said, look, I just think it's the attention to detail, and I don't think it's nothing that they were doing wrong. It's just like when you're from an industry and you see another industry wanting a great relationship with the industry, you can be that person that says that this is how we're going to do it. It's just how you go about things. It's a bit like the whole thing of having been an artist, knowing how to sit in a room with an artist and get what you need and get what you want and make them happy, and then so they get what they want, and everyone's just on that thing. So I've been brought in. I run a division there, and so we are basically having a brand new opening ceremony starting in 2024. Where on the Thursday, the Thursday before the first day of practice, we're going to have the most incredible opening ceremony. Big artists on there. Yeah, it's and for me, it's an incredible job because it's a wonderful job because I get to. I'm a massive Formula 1 fan, so I get to immerse myself in that world. It's a challenge, which I always like and I think I need, and I get to bring my knowledge and relationships without damaging them into a world
You're
that they
enhancing
want.
them. You're giving them a platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wondered how you've dealt with your own mental health through your whole kind of career in life, because for me, just looking at you from the outside, there's an element of positivity, self-assurance, confidence. You have to have that in context to be able to have gone into the career that you went into, performing on stage and so on. Has that always come naturally to you?
So performing definitely didn't come naturally. That was I remember when I was like 19, I went to go and see a show. Someone that I think my label took me, or someone took me to go and see a show. And I remember looking at the guy on stage, just trying to fathom how he was able to just in between his songs have such confidence and talk to the audience and be very artistic and dramatic and my actually my first ever show, someone had to shove me on. It was supporting Colin Anderson, and someone had to literally shove me on the stage because I just performing and being on stage didn't come naturally, but you do learn and then you grow and you get the confidence. It's like life, you just get more and more confidence, and it's very possible to then learn techniques, and then suddenly you get and then I was supporting One Direction, 6,000 people, didn't even think anything of it. And actually the bigger the audience, sometimes the easier it is because you can't see anyone. Just seeing someone's face I've played some parties for some back in the day, some fans where you go and played a party and there's like 20 of them in a room and you're like, oh no. And that's way more nerve-wracking. When you're playing the Rose Bowl, 6,000 people, you can't really see anything. You're just looking into the abyss.
Just a blur.
Yeah, exactly. So
wow. And you mentioned you learned techniques. Have you ever sought any help? So have you kind of self-taught yourself and kind of, because that empathy that we talked about earlier, which I think is a real strength of yours, and you developed that. Is it almost like you're talking it through in your head and you're very good at working out what's working for you and what's not, or have you actually sought help? And
so the only bit of help I ever had was I got asked to be. I mean, the journey of mental health, being an artist alone, is madness, because it's like it's just up. It is physically up and down so much, and I never really broke. As an artist, we sold enough records to have a successful touring campaign in America, and I did enough to be signed for 10 years as an artist, but I never really broke enough to warrant being an artist more than a songwriter. But even within that, there was ups and downs, and there was highs and there was lows, and there was times where my label didn't talk to me for like a year and a half, and in that, fun enough, within that year and a half when I was on my first label, I got asked to be in a film called Step Up. And I never done acting before, so I went to an acting coach for like 2 days just to know what it was like to be, on a set and all this kind of stuff. But apart from that, I never did. But in a way, the only other bit of help I ever had was when I was on my first label. They actually brought in a kind of life coach. And I thought it was them being really kind. Actually, what it was is them trying to work out how my personality could come out more to sell the music and the product, which is fair enough from their point of view.
Yeah.
But in doing it and looking back at it, I realized it was just because I was just mad. I was just mad, not happy, and very shy, not massively confident around a lot of other people. And therefore, when you go into an interview scenario, I'm not myself that I am now. When I come in here, I'm absolutely fine. I have a lot of success behind me and family, and I come as a different person. I was just, shy, and that got taken as arrogance because, you don't want to talk to someone, you're not walking into a room. I remember being on tour one time with a very huge band I was supporting, and one of the backing dancers walked into my dressing room and said, everyone... just why everyone thinks you're so arrogant. You haven't come and said hi yet. I was like, personally, I would have thought that walking into your dressing room as someone you don't know, and saying hi, I would have thought that's being arrogant. Yeah. I think that to me is that shows being arrogant. And maybe it doesn't, but so it's funny how the perception of someone being shy can be taken as arrogance.
Totally misunderstood.
Yeah, and that's what I was when I was younger. So that you go through those ups and downs. As an artist, and then you get thrown into the labels, because you are a product. The labels love you one minute and not the next, and so I went through that in my 20s. Now I don't really think that massively affected me in terms of, I don't think I have an issues from it. I just think it taught me to experience rejection quite well, and understand
how you deal with.
Yeah, and just understand that
right.
Stuff goes wrong, and I've always been someone that just tries something. I've never not wanted to do something, got an idea, got to try it, and so I guess maybe I'm good at understanding that if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I hate the idea of not trying and thinking that it could have.
That is awesome mindset, and so that feels like that's been inbuilt from a young age? Was that potentially from your parenting, from just did it come naturally again to you?
I guess I don't really know. I mean, I guess it comes back to even at school. Like, I mean, I left school. That was my mum. Actually went to the school I was from so we could afford to go there. So, you know, you get money off the fees when you're a teacher. So so my mum went to this school so we could, went to taught this teacher so we could go there, me and my brother. I remember my mum and my dad went together when I was at the age that I left. And I remember just walking to my mum's bedroom, literally just broke down, burst into tears. I was like, I've got to leave. And it's so weird because after I'd mentioned it a few times, like I don't want to be at school anymore. I just want to leave. I want to do this. But it was so weird after all of that, you know, X amount, how many years of doing education, she was like, okay. And she called my dad and was like, Jamie's in here and he's just like not in a good place and he's telling me he's going to leave. And my dad was like, all right.
That's awesome.
So as a parent, I almost would say to them sometimes, like, yeah, you didn't even fight me on it at all. But I think they just realised that
they read what was going on and they supported.
So even from that age, I think I'd realised this is what I need to do. I'm just going to do it, and I really hope that it. I really hope that it pays off.
Yeah, but you had the support from the people at that time in your life that you know you sort of they supported you all the way through. You've got to make a decision on what you're going to do, and you're kind of beholden to that. Yeah, which probably gave you that drive, and I think that's awesome. Fair play to your parents.
Yeah, no, 100%, and hopefully they realise that it was not a bad decision.
No, definitely. You've had clearly, we're talking about the sort of the tough times and so on. You've also had a huge amount of success. When did you first feel successful? You mentioned that sort of 10-year period. And you did the film, Step Up, all the different things that have led to you to get to where you are. But when did you sort of have that feeling where, not in an arrogant way maybe, but the sort of the chest is coming out and you're like, actually, I'm doing well.
Do you know what? I've had lots of like milestones in my life. Like when I first won an Ivan Vella, which is a songwriter, is like the most prestigious award you can write, and it's like the community saying well done rather than
recognition.
So I've had those things, Grammy nominations, discs saying you've sold over 10, 50 million albums, all these kind of stuff, which feel like amazing achievements. But actually, to be honest with you, the one thing I will never forget and feeling like I've made it was the feeling of earning my first pound rather than someone advancing my money based on thinking I was going to be successful. And when you're a music artist, you get an advance, because the idea is that if you sign to a record label, they need to give you some money so you can focus on being an artist and not have to have a job. So, but it's all money. With people hoping you're going to be somebody or be successful, and as an advance, and that's basically how I lived through my 20s.
Yeah.
When I first started writing for other people, I was about 27. I went to go and see a guy that was helping me out and had basically been publishing a few things here and there, and he said to me, "Look, it's about time that you start writing for other people." And I'd always been against it, and I was like, I just wanted to write for myself. I suddenly realised, you know what, I'm 27, 28, I want to meet someone soon, have a family. I need to really make this into a job. So I did it, and I wrote one of the songs on the first JLS album. And, he had advanced me, I don't know, something, like 5-10 grand or something, based on the fact this cut happened. And I remember when I first made, what if, say it was 10 grand advance, when I first made, 10,250 quid, and I actually got 250 quid in my bank. It was literally the validation of like, I've actually made that now.
Yeah.
So that and that feeling of, wait a minute, I've gone and written a song and I've actually made 250 quid because I've paid back the advance and it's now made that. And that feeling was just like, it was like a drug. It was like, oh my God, I need more of that, And then I just had a lot of luck and success, and then worked with Enrique Iglesias, had a big song with him through the same guy, started getting some bigger checks in and realizing I'm a songwriter now. You know, and I'm not someone that someone thinks is going to be successful. I'm now actually making money. So yeah,
I love that. As an aspiring songwriter, someone that's looking into that world now, what advice would you give them? And slightly sort of separate question, but you mentioned like you started out with JLS and went from there. How do you sort of become someone that they want to work with? How do you become someone that can create that opportunity? How did you do that?
well, that is $1 million question, because if you could write an answer of how you become a successful songwriter or a songwriter that people want to work with, yeah, I'd be owning this building right now that we're in. But you know, the truth is, don't give up, keep going, which is the same thing. Be true to yourself and never just, you know, be honest to the what you're doing. So if you're a songwriter, make sure you're writing songs that you believe. You know, make sure everything is as honest as it can be. I would say set your bar so high. Never take artists. Always give artists the respect that they you know, deserve, no matter whether you think they're bigger than this artist. Always do your best that you can do for that artist, and network. You know, network and play the business side of the music industry, because it's as valuable as just, you know, sitting down by yourself in a you know, and get your songs out there.
Yeah.
Because the music industry is a small place. You know, if you are talented and you're writing good songs, it will get heard eventually. You know, it is a small place. It's a very small group of people that really make the big decisions.
I mean, there's some big stats associated with, you know, 100 million albums sold worldwide, the Novello Award. Where is that award, by the way? Where do you have that?
In my studio in Richmond. Yeah, my studio's in Richmond, yeah.
How important is legacy to you? Because that was the overarching question of there's a lot of accomplishments. But, you know, then there's becoming the father, the husband, and all the things, and you're still relatively young. Where do you know, from a legacy point of view, how important is what you're achieving, what you're doing?
I don't think it is important. The only thing that really is really important for me is my family.
Yes.
That's kind of what I realised. Because it's funny to talk about legacy, because, you know, with the whole mental health thing as well, you know, there's a whole world to explore in the kind of what we're doing here. What's this? What's the point? What's this? And I think I struggle with that a lot, actually. I always have since I was a kid. And I think for me, I very much channel that back into the legacy of having children, having a family, giving them the best I can. Legacy as people remembering me or knowing what I do, I actually don't. I'm not that fussed by it.
I can feel that from you.
I'm not that fussed by it. I think it's kind of cool. And it's really amazing, actually. We were talking earlier outside about the fact that someone can come with one letter, or, you know, say I've done this, and actually that's the one thing that I always took for granted, which I've never gone back and looked at ones, but we used to get given so many stories of like, and we hadn't had tons of massive global success, but still, you know, stories of like, you have just. Actually, to be honest, even without being an artist, as a songwriter, I still get them now of like, this one D song, you know, saved my life. And you never know whether you did or you didn't, but hearing those stories only now is becoming so relevant in the whole my life and mental health and I've got kids, but when I was younger, you know, you don't really take it, but it goes over your head. You're like, you see someone at a gig, you're like, I'm so happy for you, but you don't really know how happy you are for them, and you just like kind of, you're in this bubble, and it's like, I'm so happy for you, and you know, thank you, saying these lovely things, and you go back and you know, you go on to the next table, and you have to go into promo mode. Now I realise is that what these things do for people, and it's amazing. And I think sometimes you almost feel like a bit vain, feeling proud about it. But it's not really. It's just like, yeah, wow, that's crazy how something can help someone. And
I think it's important that you acknowledge it. And actually, even just when you were talking earlier about your kids now showing an interest in you having been a singer and so on, and that almost brings that all back to, it's part of your legacy, and you can enjoy it, and it's a part of the journey. But you're not there showing off or what have you. It's just part of what you've done.
And I think a lot of things in life, is about hindsight. And look, how much better would I have been if I literally took myself now and went back to like 25 and did the whole same thing again? Obviously, and it's not possible. But my funny thing is, like, that whole thing about understanding what's important and the mental health thing, and things come full circle. There's nothing you can do about it, because you can't overlearn.
No.
You can't pre-learn things, and you can't, and it only happens because you learn yourself more, and you become more self-aware. And this whole thing about mental health, and it's such a prominent topic, and adults late in life, now that things like ADHD and dyslexia and dyspraxia and all these things are being talked about way more openly than people had knowledge, and suddenly people later in life are understanding, oh my God, this is something I might have. So you can't help those things. Things become topics, and people then know them, and it's great. It's an amazing thing that's happening. But it's
it feels healthy, doesn't it? I think we're similar age. I'm 45, you're 41, and I think the way we grew up, there wasn't a lot of talking, as kind of mates, as family, so openly as we are now.
Yes, 100%.
We were obviously having a chat with Danny from Jack earlier. What do you think of Jack?
I'm still kind of processing it, because it just feels like everything about it feels like it's just the right time and right place, to be doing what they're doing with the knowledge you can get from the platform, and seeing people that you can identify with. It's so important for, and I see this from the music industry. You've got artists that are going through problems. You've got successful people that are going through problems. You've got people with lots of money that are going through problems. All these people, and when I say lots of money, I mean like successful businessmen. It's not about having the money. It's about
money not making you
It's
happy.
about money not making you happy. So it's very important for people that put other people up on a pedestal to realise that we're all the same. Going through exactly the same thing. We just have different ways about going about our life. And I get to see that a lot, because I work with a lot of famous people, and when you then become friends with them, they're just your mates. You go out for a night out, and suddenly the paparazzi taking pictures of them, you realise, God, they're in they have to deal with a lot of stuff as well. So it's but it's all about learning about yourself, and you can't. You can. I think a lot of more people now at a younger age will start that process. We probably weren't in the generation, especially the generation, my parents didn't, the idea, they're now, 70, 80, probably thinking it's probably, maybe, I don't know, is it too late to change yourself? I don't know. I don't want to be the guy that says you can't at 70, 80, maybe you still can, but it's hard and harder. So the fact this is coming out, everyone's talking mental health, everyone's talking about, things they might have that will help them understand themselves.
It can only be a help.
I think,
What would you describe as your greatest strength?
I would say my greatest strength is belief.
Awesome.
Because I think I've actually been told, I think I've realised this about myself more through someone telling me, people actually, and more than one person telling me, that I've been told that, if I have an idea, I'm quite relentless in just not accepting that it won't happen. And I've taken that for granted, because I think I'm in my own head. So I just have an idea, and I quite physically don't understand the idea of it not working.
Yeah, you'll see it through.
To some degree, of whatever it will be. So when you said that question, I guess belief kind of sums that up, because I don't view it as belief, because I'm doing it. But I guess what that is a belief that this is gonna, this is a good idea.
Yeah, fair play. And again, same sort of scenario, but what would you say is your greatest weakness?
Greatest weakness, probably not having carved out enough time to enjoy the last 10 years where I've had a lot of success and could have probably been way less stressed and done lots less things, and basically not done the I never didn't do kind of mentality of like just doing everything and just making sure. And I guess I guess it comes from a kind of fear of missing out and not making the most. And I think that, so therefore I guess my biggest weakness is never feeling like enough is enough. That's like, that kind of challenged me every day. Like if I could just, just relax. And I know a lot of friends that just like, mate, like literally, you're kind of going from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. You got 3 assistants, you got this company, and I love that. I do love that side of it. But then I think to myself, if I was literally just going to the studio as a songwriter, I could probably do it a couple of days a week and chill. But then so I think that's probably my greatest weakness in terms of not being able to just feel like enough's enough. You make some money, you want some more, you might, and never just being able to be like, look, this is more than fine. But then I don't know if that would make me happier, because I think I generally struggle if
you could become unbearable.
Yeah. So yeah, and actually, it's funny. Well, I sold a company 5 years ago that had a lot of my copyrights in it, and I did exactly that, and I did nothing for 4 or 5 months.
Is that what you described as the catalogue?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So I was horrendously.
So you have experienced it then. So actually, you say you almost regret it, but
that's why. Yeah, exactly. I just don't know whether, when push comes to shove, when I'm older, will it have been the healthiest thing to do to always be that stressed? But in terms of like mental health, but I won't know until I get older. So, and this is what makes me feel alive and want to get up in the morning and feel that kind of buzz, and so I think that's an important thing, obviously.
That's awesome. And you've been so open. Everything we talked about, it's been raw. It's been from the heart. So thank you, Jamie. I've learned loads talking to you.
Amazing. Lovely. Great. Thanks for having me.